Hi and welcome to this reading. Today's reading is impromptu. I am just going off some intuitive hits that I've had this morning. I've actually still got the cards from the previous reading, but it's the energy that's coming through. More messages are coming through from the previous reading. And as with all my readings, I'm not your traditional tarot reader. I am somebody who has an intuitive, creative mind, and I see everything through signs and symbols. And I use what's happening in current life, in the soul journey that I am on individually. And I use my tarot readings to, well, I wouldn't even call them tarot readings. I use my readings to document the intuitive information I am receiving, and I just hit the record button. So you can join along for the journey. I was talking to somebody yesterday in regards to the meaning and purpose of the readings that I do. And the more I dig into the messages that I am receiving, the more I realize that I'm just a tool, an example of how you can tap into the hidden messages that are in and around you. So your name, where you live, the religion that you grew up in, the signs and symbols around everything, your birthday, your astrological placements, the career path that you've taken, the things that you like to do, the things that set your soul on fire. Because in this lifetime, as part of your soul contract, you are meant to tap into those things. And as I said, I pick up on things intuitively. 9 times out of 10, it's symbolically, because I'm an illustrator. So I look at things through the eyes of the visual, through my third eye, and then I hit the record button. So this was the end of yesterday's reading, and I'm going to pack these cards away while I talk to you, because I don't want to lose the energy from these cards. And then we'll get into the messages that I was receiving. Now, this is the 4th reading. I've already done 3 readings on this on these symbols and synchronicities. Your soul contract is written on your thigh. I've been looking at the symbolism around the Last Judgment painting in the Sistine Chapel. As I said, I'm an illustrator, so I'm interested in the signs and symbols that come in through art, historically and biblically. I'm going to take those out of the way. And for me, the biggest part of my spiritual journey started in about 2019. At the beginning of COVID, the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, the beginning of COVID, when I had a huge dark night of the soul, and I essentially had to put myself in timeout in order to, I want to say my daughter was the catalyst for my biggest spiritual awakening, because at that time, in the beginning of 2020, she converted to Islam. And I'm Catholic, and I went through this huge purge of everybody else's layers and layers and layers of everybody else's beliefs. And I had to strip it all back and work out what I actually believed in. And I believe that currently the collective, as a whole, we are all going through that process, and it's being marked out in the sky through astronomical events, but also in the astrology, in between worlds and evolution of the soul. That is where we are. That's the sphere within a sphere. That's outside the Vatican, which is where that Last Judgment painting is, on the walls of the Sistine Chapel. So if you don't know already, 3-Eye Atlas is making its way through the sky at the moment. Came in on the 1st of July. And there's symbolism in that comet, in the Last Judgment painting, but also in this bull symbolism, which I actually only touched on a little bit yesterday. So I want to pull some cards on it. Let's pop him in there. This bull symbolism. May 31st is when 3-Eye Atlas hits the bullseye, which is the star Oberon, known as the Eye of the Celestial Bull. The Eye of the Celestial Bull, the bullseye. Okay, let's turn these over. So So if you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. A bit about me first. I'm an intuitive tarot reader. I pick up on energy prior to a reading. I will then come and use my tarot and oracle decks to further clarify the message. As I said, I'm not your traditional tarot reader. I often do a lot of talking, a lot of bringing through the symbolism that I have received prior to the reading. It's not a traditional tarot reading. I'm not predicting your future or anything like that. I am literally just drawing through information, and then I will use my tarot and oracle decks to further clarify that message, that symbolism that I'm picking up on. It's a tool for you to use in your own life, because if you think of 3i Atlas, it's actually, an atlas is a map. It's the map, it's the journey that you are on. And you're just watching somebody else mapping things out. So, as I said before, I'm an illustrator. All of the decks that I use on my channel are my own illustrations, my own designs. If you're called to any of those, the links can be found in the description box. As part of the soul journey that I am on, these were all big, major art pieces, pen and ink art pieces. You can also find the links to purchase products that I've created using these artworks or these covers on all the decks. If you're not interested in a tarot deck but you like my art, you can purchase a piece of that as well. And I'm hearing the word chosen, which is actually an artwork, and I will link it. I haven't figured out how to do that yet, but I will link it. So the messages that I have been receiving: God is shooting an invisible arrow through the sky, which started at the bow of Sagittarius on the 1st of the 7th, 2025, so this year. Today's the 31st. It's New Year's Eve. God is shooting an invisible arrow through the sky, which started at the bow in Sagittarius on the 1st of the 7th, 2025, and lands on the bullseye, which is Oberon, the eye of the bull, on the 31st of May, 2026. Which also happens to be a blue moon in Sagittarius. Now, what is he using to shoot that? The comet 3i Atlas, which came into our solar system on the 1st of July on the tip of the bow in Sagittarius. So almost pulling that bow back in Sagittarius. And the arrow will land on the bullseye on the 31st of May, 2026. Now, 3i Atlas is the arrow, and currently it's not performing like a normal comet, which normally has a tail. It actually has a tail at the front and a tail at the back. But the tail at the front is like a point, like an arrow, bursting through the solar system. The front one being the tip of the bow. It symbolizes the Ark of the Covenant. Now, a covenant is a soul contract that you, me, collectively, we all have with the man upstairs. And on the 31st of May, it lands on the thigh of Pollux, which is in Gemini. Now, Pollux is one of the two twins. Pollux symbolizes Israel, or Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, and that story of theft and repentance. Oberon itself, the star Oberon, is part of 4 fixed stars, the royal stars of Persia. As I said before, it's the bullseye. It's found in the sign of Taurus, which is symbolized by the bull. The bull is the symbol for the Aleph. If you go back in ancient script, it was a bull. It's changed over the years, but one of the symbolisms, and I think maybe the first symbolism, was the bull. But during the period of 1000 through to 600 BCE, it was drawn, and I'll bring, I am into signs and symbols. I have so many books. It was drawn in Phoenician. I'll see if I can bring that up. It was drawn as a sideways A with a cross through it. Now, that specific symbol is the symbol that marked the 3 previous solar eclipses, or the tracking of the 3 previous solar eclipses across America. You can see that symbol. So the Aleph and the Tav, which is, so the Aleph is the beginning and the Tav is the end. So this cross was the final mark, the beginning and the end. A huge spiritual awakening, and actually I've got it there. The Aleph used to be the bull, which is where this bullseye is landing on May 31st, early, middle, and then it changes. other forms. Now, if we're talking about Three-Eye Atlas as the Ark of the Covenant, if you think about an arc of a rainbow, that bow that's being shot, the rainbow, the covenant that Noah had with God. But when that olive sign was being used between 1000 and 600 BCE, it was when the first temple was being built, 957, Solomon's temple, 957, and just before that temple was destroyed in 587. Now, ironically, when I was writing the notes for this reading, I looked up at my clock and it was 9:11. Both the first and the second temple, which had both been destroyed, the Temple Mount now sits there, the Islamic temple. But the first and the second temple were both destroyed on the 9th of Av, which is September 11. In 2026 is the 25th anniversary of the September 11 attacks in America. So we've got that 25 number coming through. It's also America's 250-year anniversary. And coinciding with that symbolism of May 31st, when it lands on the bullseye, it lands on the bullseye in the sign of Gemini, which is the twins, which pulls back that reference to the Twin Towers. 9/11 next year being the 25th anniversary. So I'm going to pull some cards and see what else I can pull through. Let's start with an angel. This is just a collective reading. Well, Gabriel, that's beautiful. Divine messages and revelations. Now, if we're looking at the four royal stars of Persia, Gabriel is symbolized by Formalo, the watcher of the south, the mouth of the fish or the whale. And that's interesting because that eclipse, the last one in 2024, April 8, 2024, went over 7 cities in the US called Nineveh. And if you know the biblical story, not a biblical reading, but I'm just pulling through symbolism. And if you know the symbolism around Jonah and the whale, he was sent to a city called Nineveh to repent because they were sinners, essentially. But that eclipse passed over 7 cities called Nineveh. And because he didn't do what he was told, because he didn't repent, God put him in the belly of the whale, almost like a dark night of the soul, a point of reflection. Gabriel, divine messages and revelations. I just heard, what have I done? Formalo, Gabriel, watcher of the south, the mouth of the fish or the whale. Now, it's the alpha star of the southern fish, which was formerly known as Aquarius, if we're looking at, or Aquarius, if we're looking at constellations. But it deals with mysticism, idealism, and prophecy, and it's the 21st to the 24th of February. So some sort of revelation coming through. And maybe for you, if you're looking at things on a world stage, it's that aha moment that you get where you start to piece everything together. And people are doing it at the moment. People are doing it at the moment. I was also getting references to Babylon falling, which was further back in history. But the reason that the Tower of Babel fell, because, was it the king? Very, very ego-driven. He thought that he was kin to God. And so he wanted to build this tower so high that he was on the same level as God. And what actually happened was they brought in all of these workers that all spoke, they were all from different countries. And so there was crossed wires in communications, and that's why it eventually fell. Too many chiefs in the kitchen. No, too many chefs in the kitchen. Too many hands in the pot. Divine messages and revelations. Okay. Now, Gabriel is also represented by the moon. So the moon is things that are hidden, that are coming to light. If we think about Jonah and the whale, he was actually in the dark. And after he'd been in there, he went out and went, oh, actually, you know what? And he then went into Nineveh and spread that message that he was meant to. Okay, let's get walking away. Okay, now I started this reading telling you the story about my daughter who converted to Islam, or reverted, which is what it's called, reverted to Islam. Walking away. It's the constructs that we're bound to. So each soul enters this lifetime. You're born into a family with essentially built-in ancestral karma, religion that you're built into, or that you're born into. So, my kids, my husband and I were Catholics. So our kids, they were baptized, they were sent to Catholic schools. But at some point, they have to grow and do what they want to do on their own, not be bound by the structures, part of the evolution of their soul, to walk away from what they know and to go on their own soul journey. It's a bit like when you take the training wheels off the bike. Patience and perseverance. It takes a long time. It really, really takes a long time. And even in the context of, me doing tarot readings on YouTube, I had to walk away from the embedded mindset that tarot readings were taboo within my religion. This mindset that, you can go to a tarot reading and have your future all laid out for you, when the reality is, intuitively, you've already got the messages. A tarot reading for me is just confirmation of something that you're already aware of, or a nudge to say, hey, look into that a little bit further. And that's why a whole reading may not resonate with you. It might be just a tiny little bit. These cards that come out today could have nothing to do with your journey, but maybe, like me, signs and symbols interest you. So you dig in to something completely separate because, you've listened to this tarot reader today who goes, you know what, just go a bit further. What does your name mean? The number of the street you live in, the name of the street you live in. In that reading yesterday, I was pulling together the soul contract that I had with a specific person in my life, and how, like a map, 3i Atlas, how it had guided me to the place that I am in today. Now, because I'm Catholic, I look at things from the lens of the Bible, because I believe that those messages as part of your soul journey are divine in nature. I will always take it back to that. And if that's not your cup of tea, then that's fine. There's a gazillion tarot readers on YouTube. But I'm just helping you peel back the layers so you can find those messages that are already within. Walking away. Divine messages and revelations. What messages are God, let me rephrase. What message is God sending in regards to that symbolism, in that eclipse, in the trajectory of 3i Atlas, in that, bullseye comet, and all of these 7 numbers, 250 years, 2 and a 5 is a 7. The 25th anniversary, 2 and a 5 is a 7. Even for me personally, as I said, my daughter was the catalyst for my most recent and major evolution of my soul. I was 7 months pregnant with her, standing in my lounge room in Australia, watching those towers fall. Whatever's happening here, whatever bullseye, whatever arrow has been shot, is part of the collective evolution of our souls. And I said in those previous readings, the Great Reset, which is happening at the end of, actually, let me just have a look when that is. Yeah, that's beautiful. The exact conjunction is February 20, 2026, at the very beginning of Aries, the sign of new beginnings, self-sovereignty and pioneering, making it a fiery, bold and transformative cycle. This rare alignment merges Saturn's structure, responsibility and reality with Neptune's dreams, spirituality and illusions, ushering in new paradigms for how we manifest our collective ideals into tangible forms. And that, Gabriel, is when Formulo, the watcher of the south, the mouth of the fish, the whale, the alpha star of the southern fish, which symbolizes mysticism, idealism and prophecy, from the 21st to the 24th of February. That's why that card's come out. Because the Great Reset falls on Formulo. Now, that date, the 21st to the 24th of February, is when the sun, which is illumination, is conjunct with Formulo. And those particular stars were used in the Persian Empire. They were seen as the celestial guardians between 550 BC and 330 BC. So in and around the time when that first temple came down. Now I'm talking about the ark that the bow is shot, 3i Atlas, the arc that it makes across the sky before it hits the bullseye. That first temple, which was destroyed in 587, but when in that same period, when they were using that symbolism, that first temple housed the Ark of the Covenant. Patience and perseverance. It's been a long time. Walking away. What information is coming in? Formulo, Gabriel. Gabriel is the messenger. What information is coming in? That's going to rock the foundations of collectively what we know. That's what I want to say. And I'm watching Stranger Things at the moment. I actually fell asleep last night watching it, so I need to go back in and watch it. But it's almost that tearing of the firmament, ripping the sky open. Even that Truman movie, Under the Dome, so that you can see what is true and what is false. Okay, what do I want to get now? I'm going to get 2 of these. I'm just going to give this a bit of a shuffle. Give me a second. Lone Pine. It's come out again, Lone Pine. Things happen for a reason. So that is a monument that is in Gallipoli in Turkey. This particular deck, and if you can hear the clippy clappy of little feet, I've got 2 puppies walking around and I've got timber floors. So this deck is my travel deck. So I'm 50. But back when I was 21, I did I worked overseas for 12 months in England, in Bath in England. And that card came out yesterday. This card came out yesterday, but it also came out with the card of the bridge. Is it Pulteney Bridge over the River Avon in Bath? I've been getting heaps and heaps of stuff about the Ponte Vecchio, which again is another market bridge, because Pulteney Bridge it was a market bridge. So symbolism, market, because I got a market in Germany in here. And it was that symbolism about a stock market crash, some sort of stock market crash. But let's get back to this image. So that is Lone Pine in Gallipoli, which was World War I, April 15. Hang on a second. There might be something about April 15th, but Anzac Day in Australia, which is a national day of remembrance of the soldiers that went to that battle, is April 25th. And it's the Anzac, so it's the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. And if you think about how far Australia and New Zealand are away from Gallipoli, and the fact that they went there by boat, they travelled a long, long way. Patience and perseverance, they travelled a long way. I know where we're going here. Give me a second. Okay, it's also the feast day of Saint Mark. Mark the Evangelist, who's the patron saint of Venice. So when we went there, we had this little old Turkish man, and as I said, I was in my 20s, little old Turkish man who basically did this tour, and it was literally all Australians and New Zealanders, which the Turkish people loved, because it's this booming tourist industry there, where all of these Australians and New Zealanders go there as a pilgrimage. And I think there's maybe one soldier left still alive from that battle. But what actually happened is the tides changed. The tides changed when they were coming in to the beach, and it's essentially cliffs and this narrow beach. And the tides changed, and so where their boats came in, Turks were all on the top of the ridge and basically took the majority. Most of them died on the beach. It was horrific, absolutely horrific. And the Turkish people who were fighting on that peninsula, it's this huge big peninsula, the Turkish men that were fighting were actually from that area, but they had great respect for the Australians and New Zealanders who'd literally come from the other side of the world. And he was telling us, because they were there for quite a while, he was telling us of these stories that had passed down through generations. And one of the stories, and it's the story of the term smoko, which is an Australian and New Zealander term. It's like coffee break, tea break. I don't know if it comes from anywhere else, but I know we use it. Taking a smoko. Go and have smoko is to have a break in the middle of a work day. And because they'd been there so long, one army had run out of paper and the other army had run out of tobacco. And so they'd fight. And then all of a sudden, this one day, a big bundle of paper wrapped up in twine came across with barely written English on it. And it said, you, me, paper, me, you, tobacco, every day, every day, every day. Because it was the only thing that allowed them to have a break in the craziness of what was going on. And eventually what would happen would be this tobacco would go over, this paper would go over. And when the whistle blew and they literally stopped for what is referred to as smoko, they would get up out of the trenches, meet in the middle and exchange or show photos of, their kids and their family and this beautiful camaraderie, even though they were battling each other, this beautiful camaraderie that happened. Now, back then, Australia was predominantly a Christian nation, and obviously Turkey is Muslim. So this connection between the Christians and the Muslims that formed through this battle that they were both involved in. And it didn't matter where we went on that peninsula in Turkey, the Turkish people were so welcoming and kind. They almost had this beautiful respect for the Australians, even though the Australians had literally come and, through war had tried to take that peninsula from them. But it was this bond that grew. Patience and perseverance, Gabriel. A bond is forming between Christianity and Islam. And interestingly, in the next couple of days, I'm sitting down to write my half of a book that I'm writing with my daughter in regards to the journey that we have been on together. Land's End. Oh, that's so funny. The end of some sort of separation between Islam and Christianity. That's what I'm picking up here. The end of illusion. The firmament being ripped open. And I realised too, and I said it before actually I did a big reading on this probably 12 months ago. All the fears that I had in that major change that she was making, they weren't actually my own. I was holding on, I was carrying everybody else's dialogue, and it's why it's so important. And there's been 10 days between readings. It's why it's so important, especially over this holiday period, to actually take time for yourself, to listen to your own thoughts and work out which bits are actually yours and which bits have been kind of laid on like that onion of other people's. What else? Lone pine. A lone pine. And actually in that reading yesterday, the loneliness card came out. Loneliness is an opportunity to gain wisdom. Let me just, look. The pineal gland, which is what's happening with 3-eye atlas. Our third eye, 3-eye. Our third eye is awakening. That's the pineal gland through some sort of revelation. And actually, what did we say today? The 31st of December, 2025. On the 6th of January is what's called Epiphany Day, the King of Kings Day. It's when the Magi fulfilled the prophecy that was written in the sky. Let's have a look at this card. Okay, that is Berlin Cathedral, and that was in East Berlin. So if you think about the Berlin Wall, that was separation, us and them mentality. The Berlin Cathedral. And actually there's something else happening at the end of January. There's a whole heap of planets that are coming into alignment. They'll all come up over the horizon in the morning. I don't know what date that is. I want to say the 26th of January, which will be in and around this prophetic date as well. Formalo Gabriel. But they all come up into alignment with the Sphinx in Egypt, and they line up with his foot. I don't know what the symbolism is in that, but the last time that alignment happened was the fall of the Berlin Wall. How interesting is that? Okay, I'm going to pop those there. What do I want want to get? I'm going to get a Mother Mary card. I'm going to shuffle this deck. The God is shooting an invisible arrow across the sky through Three-Eye Atlas. The bow of Sagittarius. The 31st of May is a blue moon, so once in a blue moon. That particular month also has 2 full moons, which is not common. And if we look at the symbolism of Pollux in biblical terms is the 2 brothers. It's Jacob. And I think in Judaism they don't eat because that arrow lands on the thigh of Jacob, on the left thigh of Jacob, which is in that Last Judgment painting in the Sistine Chapel. God's mark is left on the left thigh of Jesus in that painting, which is where all of this started. But in Judaism, they don't eat meat from the thigh, from the sinew from the thigh. It's forbidden. And that's where that bullseye is landing. Baby's breath. Mary's veil. It's been hidden. That's so funny because these are all my illustrations. And I've just got a big stack of paper, like stuff that I'm just sorting through over this Christmas period. And that was when I originally drew that. Mary's veil. And it just flew out. And I was like, you know what? If that comes out in the cards, the revelation, Gabriel, the revelation that comes by the unveiling of a truth. Mary's veil. Pop him there, and I'm going to get one more. Anything else we need to know? Oh, pomegranate. Okay, so again, this came out in the reading from yesterday. 6:13 talks about Noah and the flood. In the book of Genesis, which is that arrow that's been shot, which is the rainbow, virgin purity and innocence, the things that we didn't know that are about to be revealed. The truth that's being revealed. Okay. Give me just a second. 10 of Pentacles on the bottom. What somebody's built. The 2 of Pentacles. Legacy that somebody's built on a hidden truth. What I just heard was, what's being built? They're laughing at us. I just heard the cogs are being shown. What's being built under the veil that we've not been aware of? What's the energy around us? The Ace of Wands. That is so beautiful. Do you know the Ace of Wands? And look, rainbow, 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 rainbow. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 rainbows. This is Aaron's rod. Aaron was Moses' brother, and he helped Moses set the Israelites free from slavery in Egypt. That rod was used to part the sea, the Berlin Wall, to part the sea. And there's more symbolism in that. That stick, it's an almond branch. That stick parted the sea, and then when they made their way across, Moses went up and wrote the 10 Commandments, which is the Torah. 613 seeds in a pomegranate, 613 commandments in the Torah. I mean, obviously there's the 10 that everybody knows about, but there's 613 seeds in a pomegranate. And what actually happened was, when Moses went up the mountain to write those commandments, when he came back down, they were worshipping a bull. And so God actually made them. He left them in the desert. He left them in the desert. Patience and perseverance until they learnt. And then he brought them through. But that rod was actually placed in the Ark of the Covenant, which was the symbol of the covenant, like Noah, that rainbow. The rainbow was the symbol of the covenant, the symbol of the contract that you have with God. The beginning and the end, the Aleph and the Tav. This is about the covenant that a country has with God. And what actually happened when it went into that, was sealed up. And when they opened it again, it had sprouted this little almond. It's almost like little Gabriel. What did it learn while it was in there? What did it learn while it was in the dark? Then it had the veil pulled back. Purity and innocence had the veil pulled back. But that bull symbolism, because that's what they were worshipping. This is a new beginning, but this is a new beginning based on revelation. Things coming to light. Let me just look something up. I did write it right. I did write it right. It's the 15th of Sivan. May 31, the 15th of Sivan in 2026 is the day that Judah, the fourth son of Jacob and Rachel, was born. And it was Judah who took a leadership role of selling Joseph into slavery. That's interesting, right? Because we've got Moses here, Aaron and Moses who were sold into slavery. Okay. Ironic that next year is the 250th anniversary of Americans' independence. Okay, let's have a look at what's happening in the 3D. What's happening in the 3D? The Queen of Pentacles. The Queen of Pentacles is single, independent, and free. Independence Day. Single, independent, and free. But what veil? What slavery? Third eye awakening. The wall is coming down. And the soul. Ooh. The Ace of Swords, which is the truth. This is beautiful. You've got bookends here. Two aces, new beginnings. The Ace of Swords is the truth. The Ace of Swords is also Archangel Michael, which represents Aldebaran, the eye of the celestial bull. That May 31st bullseye. Archangel Michael, that's what's happening in the soul. A soul awakening. And the Six of Wands, which is Jupiter in Leo. Jupiter is about expansion. Jupiter is 777. Jupiter is luck. Jupiter is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And if you think about Leo in the negative connotation, Leo is the Lion of Judah. Leo is the heads of power, the heads of state, the heads of country that have sold their country into slavery. Independence Day. Revelation. The veil. And 613 is the flood. Okay, let's have a look at the message from the man upstairs. That's beautiful. That's the Wheel of Fortune. That's Jupiter. Jupiter's wheel is about to turn. And by the middle of next year, the North Node goes into Aquarius and the South Node goes into Leo. Aquarius is about humanity. Aquarius is about the people. And Leo, we've got Jupiter in Leo. Leo is about the individuals that would put themselves first above the people. A total role reversal. The other thing that's happening at the moment is we are in this 20-year transit of Pluto in Aquarius. A huge, big revolutionary change happens, including, way back in history, the Second Temple being pulled down. The French Revolution, the American Revolution happened in the Pluto and Aquarius transit. The painting of the Large Judgment on the walls of the Sistine Chapel, which again is where all of this started, because I was looking at the Pluto and Aquarius transit and I was seeing synchronicities between these transits in terms of what was actually happening. It's major revolutionary change. And Aquarius is about the internet. Not always, but Aquarius is an air sign, so it's information coming through. And if you look at what's happening at the moment, there is a specific country who owns the media, owns all of the major news platforms, owns all of the major, just bought TikTok, X, symbolism of X, Instagram, Facebook, in an attempt to veil, Mary's veil, in an attempt to veil. But the truth is coming out because people's third eye, the pineal gland, people's third eyes are awakening. Fortune is about to change. The kings are about to be toppled. What's that one I open up to? The Emperor. The kings are about to be toppled. And the unfortunate reality is that what's happening in the Middle East at the moment, unknowingly for these Emperor energies, has actually been the catalyst for people's eyes opening. And it will most likely come with the destruction of the Temple Mount, which is the mosque that sits. The outcome. I just heard all roads lead to Rome. All roads lead to Rome. That's come through before. All roads lead to Rome. The Nine of Cups, which is Jupiter in Pisces. It's a big spiritual lesson that we're learning. And on the bottom, the Lovers, which is Gemini, which is where that bullseye will land. 9 degrees of Gemini on Oberon. 9 degrees of Gemini in May 31st. Okay, let's get some more information on this Ace of Wands, this new beginning that's coming, the Nine of Pentacles. That's Mother Mary energy. The Nine of Pentacles is single, independent, free. It's removing thought patterns of other people. It's freeing yourself from the pre-written dialogue of what you've been spun. And I go back to, yeah, look, single, independent, free. The Queen of Pentacles, you have your own mind. You don't need to be spoon-fed by other people, because when you're spoon-fed by other people, and it is interesting, as I said to you, I'm about to write my half of this book. So back in 2019, early 2020, was when I was living that process of that change, that huge big, and change is hard, that huge big process of peeling back all the layers. This is actually going to be a bumpy ride when all of this stuff starts to come out about the dialogue that was written. But the biggest changes are made when you walk down the wrong path and then you realize, or you've been steered down the wrong path, or you've been told that that's the correct path, and then you realize and do the backtracking and make your own journey. The Queen of Pentacles, making your own journey. It's Uranus in Virgo. Virgo is about a spiritual awakening, and Uranus is literally an earthquake, a sudden realization that the foundations that you've built your thoughts on have all been a lie. Okay, the Queen of Pentacles. Six of Pentacles. It's a weighing up. That's the Moon in Taurus. What you've built, the foundations that you've built, has all been somebody else's. And I started saying that, you know, I lived that experience filtering back. I had never met a Muslim person in my life. But once those towers fell, there was a billion different opinions. And I'd watch things on the news and I'd see things, you know, people listen to conversations and be like, oh yeah, that's, you know. But I had nothing to form anything on because I'd never met anybody. And so that's stripping back. And now I'm going in to write those pages in that book from my perspective. But it's almost like going back in and going, okay, that's what I felt at the time. But what does it actually mean? And it's been a whole big, I can't be angry at myself for the way that I thought, but I can understand why I thought that way. And then my task was then, you know, in the years leading after, was to form my own thoughts and not rely on the dialogue of others. This is what this is. Yeah, look at that. I love cards. That's Uranus in Libra. So this is about balance, and this is about balance. Uranus is that earthquake energy, that new beginning energy. Gabriel, Fomalhaut, the Watcher of the South, the mouth of the fish of the whale. It is going in to the belly of the whale and getting clarity so that you can have your own point of view. Okay, let's have a look at this Ace of Swords and Six of Wands. The Knight of Wands. That information is coming in fast. As I said, it may be a bumpy ride. I've got that image of when you're coming into land and the plane's kind of going like this. It'll be coming in fast. But if you can keep yourself grounded, if you can have, as I said before, my readings are about, not about predicting the future, but allowing you an opportunity to see how I view things, how I look at the symbolism around so that when the proverbial SHIT hits the fan, you can be like, I sense that, I picked that up. I kind of got a hunch that that was going to happen. One more. The Five of Swords, which is Venus in Aquarius. That card is about putting your sword down and walking away from the fight. A wise person knows when they are in a battle with somebody who's trying to manipulate the truth. Okay, this Wheel of Fortune energy, the Two of Pentacles, seeing both sides of the coin. Two of Pentacles is Jupiter in Capricorn. It's weighing things up. What you've been told versus what you know, this pineal gland, what you know intuitively, what you can see with your spiritual eye, rather than what you can see is happening with your physical eyes. And knowing the distinction between the two, the Tower, that's Mars energy. When it all comes tumbling down. And maybe for you, because there will be, you know, if you're watching tarot readings or anything spiritual on YouTube, or doing any research on your own, or, you know, tapping in or stepping aside from the chatter that is, you know, if you are somebody who doesn't watch the news anymore, because you just know it's all a bunch of baloney, really. Even, you know, in Australia, we have the major news channels, which are obviously every 5 minutes you get a whole run of ads and stuff. So it's all about money as opposed to news. Then you have 2 channels which don't have any ads in them. And even that in itself is starting to kind of not necessarily present the truth. But I haven't watched the news in years and years and years. But there's a whole heap of people that do. And when I was talking up here about, you know, being wise enough to step away from an argument with somebody who is still has the veil pulled over their eyes. And that's happened multiple times in the last couple of weeks for me. But if you're watching these readings and they're resonating with you, then you will be somebody who will actually act, I want to say, as almost a bit of a help in holding up people whilst their worlds come crashing down, whilst what they knew and believed comes crashing down. That's your role in this, to be the wise sage. It's almost grandmother energy, isn't it? Okay, the Nine of Cups. And that's my belly, the world, the end of a cycle. The end of a cycle. That's Saturn energy. Saturn goes into 0 degrees of Aries. Saturn is our karmic teacher. Saturn is Chronos. Saturn is time. Saturn is your karmic teacher. All of the lessons that we've learnt. Saturn is, you know, as I said before, the families that you get born into, the religion that you get born into, all the lessons that you learn within that, so that you can break yourself free from the layers of pre-existing dialogue. Saturn goes into Aries, which is the start of the zodiac, the Tower. Saturn goes into Aries with Neptune, what did I say, the 20th of February, which is Formalo. Now, Neptune is down at the depths. It's almost like what you've been weighted down with, and that ability to, Jonah, come up after being down there, holding your breath down there, and then finally surfacing the world. Now, that particular placement at 0 degrees of Aries hasn't happened, and I did write it down. Let me see if I can find it. 4,361 BC was the last time that happened. So this massive reset, which is the world, 6,386 years ago. Okay. Oh, okay. We've got the 10 of Cups. So we've got progression here. The 9 to the 10, the Knight of Swords, a truth, and the Ace of Wands. So what started with the reading, and that's what ends with the reading. The Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end. The 10 of Cups is Mars in Pisces. It's spiritual wish fulfillment. The Knight of Swords is Mars in Aquarius. And the Ace of Wands is Aries, Leo, Sag, which is where, even where that it came in Sagittarius. 3i Atlas came in Sagittarius on the bow of the archer in Sagittarius. The archer, the arc of the rainbow, the arc of the covenant. This is beautiful, beautiful symmetry in a reading. And it lands on Oberon, the third eye awakening, the eye of the bull in Oberon, the 31st of May 2026. It's a full moon, a blue moon, once in a blue moon in Sagittarius. 3 of Pentacles, allowing us to rebuild, but with the dome, with the illusion removed. Okay, let's see what else we've got. Angel, we're being watched. Okay. That's a little red bowl that one of my kids made me for Mother's Day. Might be something symbolic about next year's Mother's Day. I don't even know when Mother's Day is. Well, in Australia it'll be different. I know it's different in the Northern Hemisphere. Let me have a look. So the second Sunday in May in Australia, the US and Canada. So the 10th of May 2026 and the 15th of March in the UK. Might be some symbolism in those dates. And that's got symbolism. So that's a ceramic feather and a key, which has symbolism in and around. And we've got this here, the weighing of the scales. In ancient Egypt, they removed the heart of the person before they put them in the sarcophagus. And whether you got into heaven or not, the key to getting into heaven was in and around the weight of your heart. And if your heart weighed less than a feather, then you got to go to the afterlife. Well, they didn't call it heaven, the afterlife. The heaviness of your heart. And that's a button. Actually, that's Venus. That's the pattern that Venus makes on its transit. Okay, let's grab one of these. I'm just looking at this cross. A wheel and a cross. Anything else we need to know? Okay. This is a deck of all of my grandmother's things. After she passed away, we photographed all of her favourite things. And different people have used the images for different reasons. For me, I've got them in a tarot deck because I draw messages from her. I just heard we're more similar than they are different. And that is something that when my daughter reverted to Islam, I recognised that there had been this huge, big dialogue putting up this divide, the Berlin Wall, between Christianity and Islam. But the reality is they're more similar than they are different. They're different. It's 2 different buttons, but they're different. But they're similar. They just look at things through a different lens, a different spiritual lens. That's what's happening. That's what I believe. That's what's happening in America. People, specifically Christian Americans, are starting to see, or will start to see, things through a different lens, and it has something to do with the preconceived, well, not, that's not the right word, the dialogue that was written after 9/11. What they were wrapped in by the old, because that's my grandfather's dressing gown. I just heard prehistoric. The outdated beliefs, the outdated dialogue. The sacrifice that was made. That's Jesus on the cross. The sacrifice that was made. Somebody was sacrificed. And it set a dialogue of being a slave to the dialogue of somebody else's viewpoint on it. unveiling, Mary's unveiling, and the truth is coming out. Because if you think about those 3 solar eclipses, the sun comes out from behind the moon. What's hidden is coming to light. Okay, let's get some Scrabble tiles. So there's the numbers in here. I'm going to give it a bit of a shake. It does make a little bit of noise. If you have hearing sensitivity, just turn your volume down. I'm going to shake it in 3, 2, 1. Not a lot, but that's okay. So we've got a U and a 1, an I and a 1, a W and a 4, a P and a 3, a Y and a 4, a H and a 4, and an O and a 1. Right, 3 final cards, and then I'm going to leave you be. Just give me a sec. I don't like it when it's crooked. That's the Virgo in my chart. Let me just give this a little shuffle. Look at that. The 4 of Wands. The structures that bound. That's the 1111 card, actually. And walking away, Saturn in Pisces, which is the 8 of Cups. Walking away because a spiritual truth has been revealed. Just nearly lost that whole deck then. People are going to lose their minds when some truths come out. Yeah, look at that. And again, that's the Tower. People are going to lose their minds when the truth comes out. They're going to be angry. That's lightning, which again is that symbolism of the eye of the bull, Oberon, Archangel Michael, the Watcher of the West, the eye of the celestial bull, power, leadership, integrity. This is about integrity. And when the veil comes off, you'll see that people have no integrity. But that particular fixed star, May 31st, Michael, Archangel Michael is God's army. He's the leader of God's army. And he symbolizes thunder and rain. We've had the Tower 3 times. Okay, let's see how to come out. The King of Cups, which is Neptune in Pisces, a current placement at the moment. Okay. Anything else that we need to know? Okay. Okay, beautiful. This is beautiful. 10 of Cups is Mars, which is the Tower. Mars in Pisces. Pisces is about spirituality. Pisces is about illusion, not seeing through. Neptune in Pisces came out. That was the card. Neptune being so far down that you can't see the forest for the trees. The 10 of Cups, the world, the end of a cycle. And 7 of Wands is about somebody not allowing you. Almost as these things are coming out, they're trickling through, and then what you will actually see, and I see it all the time, what you will actually see, it's almost a smoke and mirrors. So as things start to come out, you'll get an announcement somewhere else, and it's trying to draw your attention away from it. Or don't look over there, just let's focus on what's here, because if you actually stop and have a look at what's over there, you'll be like, holy moly. You're coming into alignment. That's the 2 of Cups. That's Venus in Cancer. That is about you coming into alignment. And this was what all of these readings were. You coming into alignment, your third eye awakening, the way you act, the way you move forward, which is divine masculine energy, not gender specific. And the intuitive nudges that you get, Gabriel, divine feminine energy, and bringing it into balance. This is what this third eye atlas is doing, sweeping across our solar system so that a hole is literally ripped in the dome and we get to see what's actually going on. Let me just have a look at these. And again, you might need to do some fasting because I've not eaten breakfast today. How did I miss this? Who is underneath it? Whip, who have I been a slave to? Whose dialogue have I been a slave to? learning to listen to you, to the information, Gabriel, the revelations that you are getting about what's going on, so that you can stand in your sovereignty, so that you can stand in your power. That's where I'm going to leave this reading. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you in another reading.